Okay, I start? Okay. Thank you. I'm delighted to be here. And I will start with a picture of my country. This is a picture of the famous Place Stanislas Leczinski in Nancy. And Stanislas Leczinski was the king of Poland, as you know. And his daughter was Maria. And Maria was the queen of France, as wife of Louis XV. So I believe that our country are both connected, and it's a real pleasure for me to be here and to continue the story of the relationship between France and between France and Poland. So I am my present talk, my today talk is about it's about persuasive criteria and user interface, or financial services interfaces try to influence users. I would like to talk about this this item in 7 points. The first is an introduction. With the introduction, I would start to present my lab and what I do in Metz in the east of France. And after, I would like to talk about the evolution and technology and how technology is connected with ergonomics, because I'm professor in ergonomics. And I will give you some example of persuasive interaction, and I will present you some criteria that we define in our lab in different research we made. And this is criteria for persuasive interaction. I will show you an experiment on how to use these criteria and give you some example, if I have time, in bank and financial interfaces. And after I will conclude. As an introduction, I'll give you some picture of my labs. We use a lot of technology like Toby. Toby is eye trackers, and we make some experimentation on web design and web and the use of website. Where I come from Metz. Metz is just here. It's in the northeast of France, and Katowice is far away from, so it's a long trip, but Metz is in the region of Lorraine, and our university is has some characteristic. Maybe you can see it. There is 5,200 students. Most important thing is that we have 7,000 foreigner students, and one of the students was Agata Novak. And it was a pleasure for me to accept her invitation to be here with you. We are in Lorraine. There is a lot of site in Metz, in different towns of Lorraine, and we cover all domain of art, language, law, economics, management, engineering, long life, training, health, science and technology, humanity and social science. Of course, in Metz, the university, as you maybe, I would like you to spend a couple of days in Metz, and Metz is a small town with a river, a marvelous river. The name is La Moselle, and this university is only on one island, so it's a quiet place, lovely place, and it's a good place to study and to make research. I am, of course, in the Faculty of Human Science and Art, and there is a lot of department, and especially I'm a psychologist. Nobody's perfect, sorry. So I have two things: I'm French, and I'm psychologist. Sorry. And language, and English is my third language. So, okay, our lab is PERSEUS. PERSEUS, that means social psychology and ergonomics for the user, or for use, or for usage. We are 10 researchers researchers coming from computer science and researchers coming from psychology and ergonomics. Our work deals with the study of interactive cognitive process through social and technological interaction with a relation to both the cognitions that build them and cognition which emerge from them. We study people with specific needs, like children, very young children, sick, blind people, tetraplegic, apprentice, immigrant, old people, end user, consumer, in the field of work, in the field of education, in the field of health, thanks to close collaboration between human science and engineering science. Our objective of PERSEUS, our labs, is to study the cognitive, social, and technological processes that can make life easier by first analyzing the type of maladjustment and by modeling them according to the prevailing cognitive and social psychology. Using this model to design devices or services and evaluate their ergonomics through experimental or real situations, and studying the psychological and social change links to the implementation of this device in a context of use, maybe in company or enterprise. How we work? We have a ULab, a usability lab. Our usability lab is 90 square meter large. It's composed with 4 rooms or 4 areas: the welcome area, the test area, where there is a camera, one-way mirror, microphone, and a lot of software like an older system, Toby system, and maybe you know and you use it. For example, if you do UX, we use SPSS, Alcest, and so far systems. We have a test area and we have an observation area and a technical area. Sorry, a technical area is there is to control how the experiments are done and how we collect the data of the experimentation. So we use 2 kinds of methodology, qualitative methodology and quantitative method. And one originality of our labs is to work for a large company, for a lot of company. Maybe you know some of them: Business Object, SAP, Alcatel-Lucent, Air Liquide, Thales, etc., etc. So we have a lot of contract with industrial in the topic of consumers, especially consumers, use of technology or the use of device. And we try to develop our research with PhD students. And our PhD students are generally paid by the company, and some of our research are self-initiated by a researcher of the lab. So this is a short presentation of what we do, and now I will start really my conference, and I will speak at first about the evolution of technology, because I think that the evolution of technology is quite connected with the evolution of ergonomics and or the evolution of cognitive and social psychology. And to speak about that, I will present you a sort of graphics on the diffusion of technology. The diffusion of technology starts in labs and research center, and after the diffusion is in large company, private and public company, and after in small and medium business, in the specialist. Maybe you use your computer or at home as a computer scientist, and after you know the story, computer is now all around the world. And what happens for the development during the last 60 years? At first, technology was developed by pioneers and researchers in the labs. And after these periods, we we have seen a large class of experts coming from general mathematics or for business, from company, from business. And it was the period for the IBM computers, it's very hard and large computer. And this is a part of our history. It's called the centralized computing. After this period, in the 80s, it was a revolution of the micro computer. You know, the PCs, Apple II, and so far a lot of technology was developed in this year and a lot around. With the 90s, we realized the importance of the prediction, of the foresight of the sociologist McLuhan when he talked about the global village, when he describes the world as a global village. And he says that when a computer will be connected both all around the world, our Earth will be very small. And that's the story now. And with the year 2000, we discovered technology is embedded everywhere you are. So the technological environment are embedded and intelligent and more intelligent, and the technical aspects are secondary importance. So there is a big change in the last year, and this change is based on the technological change and has a big impact on psychology, cognitive psychology, and ergonomics especially. What we done in ergonomics during that time? At first, ergonomists like Brian Shackle, maybe you know him, start with the problem, with dealing with the problem of accessibility and the problem of the physical dimension of the interaction. The problem was to build good keyboard for the user, to have good screen for the user. And after that period, we discover the importance of usability. So the problem is not only the compatibility between the computer and the user, but the compatibility between the mind of the user and the task. So the idea of usability was developed, and as you know, usability is now a norm from the ISO standard, and this is quite developed during the 70s and the 80s. With the microcomputer revolution, we discover something very strange. That is the pleasure of use a technology. And what we discover, that when people use and when people play video games, so we discover that the aims of the interaction is not only to do a task, but the aim of the interaction could be the pleasure you can have with a computer. So this is why, and Mr. Maleki says a brilliant lecture of it, this is why emotion is very important. And this story of emotion starts with a video game and with the books of Norman on Jordan. Jordan wrote another book very famous on emotional design. And this is what we call phonology. This pleasure with product, to pleasure to interact with product. And I think there is something new about the history of ergonomics and computer science. This is persuasion. When we try to buy something on the internet, when we use e-commerce systems, the problem is not only to have a good accessibility to the system. The problem is not only to have a usable system, to have pleasure with the system, but the problem is to capture your attention, to persuade you to use a system and not to use another one. Because it's very simple to close a window and to go to another shop. Because it's very simple to close a window and to go to another bank. So one question is how to capture the attention of the user and how to manipulate the user. For example, the objective of Google is not only to give you information, to give you answer to your question. The objective of Google is you to not use another search engine. So persuasion still to be very important in the last decade. Let me talk about a definition, our definition of UX now, because we think that this four dimension, accessibility, usability, emotional design, and persuasion is very important to define, to define UX. In my point of view, UX is totally connected with the problem of interaction between man and technology. And interaction with technology is encapsulated in a general activity where technical skill, cultural and social interaction are developed so that technology becomes an experience. And this interaction has two parts. One part is non-experiential component. The non-experiential component of the interaction is a utilitarian function. Maybe you want to save a document, this is utilitarian. But another part is to live an experience with technology. And this is the experimental component. And this component is related to the understanding of the situation. And I think that these two parts, non-experiential dimension of the interaction and the experiential component, are mainly dependent from ergonomics characteristic of the systems and of the psychosocial dimension of the situation of use. So I believe there is four dimensions in the UX. The first is necessary accessibility. I'm sure that everybody are sensible in this point of view. Usability, everybody knows that. Emotional, it's very important. And I will talk now about persuasive interaction. So this is a model we developed in my labs. So there is this model of UX, of course, and 4 points are very important: accessibility, usability, emotion, persuasion. So you must have two points of view: a point of view of the computer scientist when you are a developer or project manager, and the point of view of human and social science, maybe when you are studying user in user job analysis, job activity analysis, and so forth. But here I just want to talk about persuasion and social influence in the use of technology. Okay? Good. Now, I think I say that technology tries to influence us. I will give you some example, and I make a little games to understand it. So this is now a quiz. I hope you can find a good solution. How technology influence our mind, behavior, and attitude. Are you ready for the quiz? Yeah. Yep. This is television, yeah? First question. How many years did it take to reach a market audience of 50 million? Oops, for radio. How many years it takes? 60 years, 16 or 60? 16, not real. Exactly 38. It took 38 years for the radio to have a market audience of 50 million. For the television, 30. For the internet, no. 4 years. For the iPod, no, 3 years. And the best for the last but not the least, Facebook, 2 years. It took 2 years. the development of technology is exponential now. It's totally exponential. It's a new data of our world. Second question. The first SMS was sent in December 1992. How many SMS have been sent and received in last year? 7 billion? 700 billion? 7,000 billion? Yes. That's a lot. When I started my career in a computer company in Paris, in France. And when I was a young ergonomist or software ergonomist, I just designed interfaces for maybe 10 persons. I think that your job is to design interfaces for 3 billion people. It's a little bit different. This is French problems, maybe. When you give a lecture in a university, maybe a university in France, how many students are sending one or more SMS during your lecture? Who is sending an SMS here? None. No, nobody, because you have a natural authority, you have charisma, and all students hear you. I'm not sure. 10%, 20%, 30%, and 30%. It's a big problem for teachers. As you know, not quite in the university, but in the college and gymnasium. Wow, what a beautiful girl. Ooh. Are you ready? In 2010, how many couples have been married after online interactions? You have an idea? $116? 108 in America. This is statistic from America, this one. That means that 1 out of 8 couples married last year in America met online. This is a big modification, a big change, organizational change of our society. I'm sure you know that guy. I'm not so fanatic of Apple because I learn a lot of things about persuasion. So iPhone and iPad users are tracked. First answer, because the operating system records all the movement. Second answer, because travel data are not protected. Third, because this data are not encrypted. Or because these data are searchable by anyone with a device in his hands. The first is right. The second is right. The third is right. And the last one is right too. We need information, we need personal information to satisfy the user sometimes. And sometimes we need personal information to manipulate the user. It's not the same thing. This is a company where a student of mine, a PhD student of mine, work, but I know, and don't say exactly the name of the company. A French campaign, Commander Enterprise Editor enables marketing professionals to reach audience with targeted message that improve campaign conversion rate and profitability. How many emails do they send each month? In France? 7 billion? You're right. 7 billion emails sending each month to modify the consumer behavior or to modify what you decide or not decide to buy, for example. Sorry? Yeah. Thank you. This is the first email. I keep it in my. I save this email because this is the first email I received after I order on the internet. Do you think this email is very persuasive or intensive or motivating or encouraging or manipulator? I buy herbal tea. I believe it was herbal tea. I believe I buy herbal tea in an e-commerce website, and I receive this email. Yeah, good. Do you think they try to manipulate me? No. And now, what happened? Nowadays, you receive such emails, and you think it is persuasive, it is intensive, insensitive, it is motivating, encouraging, manipulator, credible, attractive, etc., so far. So you can see now that with the email, with the website, we try to influence your mind, we try to change your behavior, we're trying to think that you could be a consumer for me. And that's very strange. I'm not sure, you know that, IKEA, you have such, yeah, okay, fine. Okay, so there is a lot of things very different. There is a new influence because technology tries to influence you, tries to influence me, and you will not buy something on a website without critical element that will inspire quality and security during interaction. If you cannot identify a trustworthy entity, you will not buy a product or services which is supported by the respective website. So persuasive technology is a term, is a concept developed by, maybe you know, maybe I think maybe you know him, developed by Fogg. Fogg is professor of social psychology in Stanford University in California, and he wrote a famous book, this book, Persuasive Technology. And he develops the idea of persuasive technology, and he says that and persuasive technology is characterized by the fact that the intention of changing the attitude and behavior is subtle, hidden, and sometimes pernicious. Persuasive technology is at the crossroad between ergonomics, social psychology, organizational management, and of course design of HCI. Fogg coined the word captology for computer as persuasive technology. Captology is computer as persuasive technology. And that means how computing product from website to mobile phone software can be designed to change what people believe and what they do. Okay? There is a lot of paper, a lot of research on persuasive technology. Each year there is a conference on persuasive technology. The next one will be I believe in Australia this next summer. And I decided to develop a list of criteria to inspect or to assess or to evaluate the persuasion in interfaces. So now I would like to present you the list of criteria, of persuasive criteria, and to deal with the problem of how cognitive ergonomics can deal with the problem of persuasive interfaces. And I suggest that ergonomics can have a criteria-based approach. A criteria-based approach is very is very I don't remember. It's very. I don't. En français, j'oublie. In French, I forgot it too. It's very usual. Yes, it's very usual. Maybe there is criteria for health in ergonomy. There is criteria for workplaces, to design workplaces. There is criteria for website. Readability of the interface, PFT, workload of the user, etc., etc. There is a lot of criteria in ergonomics. We like criteria. We like that when you make UX. But there is no criteria for persuasive dimension of the interaction, so we decided to develop them. How we develop them? At first, there is a lack of tool to assess the design of persuasive interfaces. There is not tools. Maybe Fogg start with the concept of credibility. He says that the user interface has to be credible and have to have a good credibility, because if the credibility is not good, the user quits the system and close the window. So, but there is the lack of tool. So we decided to collect all paper we found, and we found 165 papers on persuasive technology. And one student of me, Alexandra Nemri, a student in PhD, read all the paper and tried to identify criteria in this paper. After, we do something like card sorting, make a categorization of this criteria, and we developed a first list with 12 criteria and a second list with 8 criteria. We test and validate this list of criteria with a confusion test. I'm not sure you know that, but it's a methodology to validate criteria. Everything is published, and you can read the paper. The result of the validation was very good. Correct identification is a heavy score, and statistical coefficient his name is kappa coefficient. I don't know. I'm sure you don't know, but it's just for scientists. It's very good in this point of view. So our list of criteria is this one. There is 2 dimensions of criteria. The first dimension is static criteria, and the second dimension is dynamic criteria. The static dimension is what kind of criteria you have to use on the interface. Your interface have to be credibility, privacy, personalization, and attractiveness. This is the first criteria, and there is sub-criteria. But the persuasion process is not only on one interface. This is a process with time aspect. So the temporal dimension of the persuasion is also important. So there is dynamic criteria, and dynamic criteria is solicitation, initiation, commitment, and ascendency. I will present you this email, for example, to start my example. Do you know IKEA? Furniture, Swedish, famous. Yeah, you like it? Yeah, not expensive. No, you dislike. Okay. I received when I prepare this presentation, I received this email, and this email said you can earn 500 euro. Well, that's a lot of money from IKEA, and it's totally free. It's totally gratis, totally free. First, this is credibility. IKEA is a well-known brand. It's famous. I know IKEA. I like it. It's good. It's attractive. 500 euro. Oh, it's a lot of money. It's very attractive. But there is no privacy and no personalization. They don't use my name. They don't use a message private. And I'm not sure it's good email. But they want to modify my behavior. I'm sure they want. So in interfaces, some prerequisites are necessary to promote the acceptance of an engaging process. Now I would like to present you these four criteria. Credibility. What is credibility? Credibility, that means giving enough information to the user allows him to identify the source of information to be reliable, relevant, expert, and trustworthy. So your interface must to be credible. How many time I get? 25 minutes, not a lot. I will give you some example to identify credibility. Maybe you have some interfaces. For example, this one. This one is an interface of a digital library, European history of European digital library. And the presence of bibliographic, citation, and original source give credibility to the interfaces. This icon, because the icon is well known, like the icon you use here, Facebook is well known, it gives credibility to your message. Highlighting a well-known expert. This is Sylvain Schirman, is a very famous expert from history in France. He wrote a lot of books, and if you can use his name, I'm sure it's credible source of information. The information of updating, the information presented, it's credible information. I want to present you another example of criteria. This is privacy. Privacy, that means do not persuade the user to do something that publicly exposes his, her private life and which he or she would not consent to do. That means the protection of personal data, the preservation of personal integrity, the security of the user is very important. If you decide to give information of the user to another one, I'm sure you can lose your user, because privacy is very important for everybody. So I will give you some example. A bad example is Facebook. Facebook is a bad example of credibility, as you know, maybe if you use it, because the guarantee is not heavy. And this, when you have this icon, that means that the personal data are delayed when you finish to use the systems. So your privacy is guaranteed by the systems. The third criterion is personalization. Personalization, that means consider the user as a person and consequently develop a personal relationship with the user. So personalization refers to the concept of customization, aiming to adapt the interface to the need of individual ownership from the user. I will give you some example of personalization. Maybe if you use eBay, you say, "Hello, Peter." Yes, it's personalization because you have the name of the user. Another one is when you give the user the ability to select the characteristic of its electronic media, makes the user more receptive to influence. For example, another example on Amazon, but I'm not sure you have Amazon in Poland. Yes, you have it? Oh, I tried to take a picture of Amazon from Poland and I don't... you use, yeah, okay. A proposal that reflects and complements previous purchases will be experienced as a personalized proposal. So it's very important to personalize your interfaces when you want to host and to have interaction with the user. Attractiveness. That means capturing the attention of the user to elicit emotion and to induce favorable action. The use of aesthetics, the use of art, of video, of graphic, of color, to capture the attention of the user is very important. You can use it to develop the attractiveness of your product. I would give you some example. For example, this one, I'm sure you know that. The conformity between the text and the image reinforces the attractiveness. The use of flamboyant colors to produce sales. The use of a virtual agent is attractive and could increase the seduction of the user. So I present you four static criteria to design and to evaluate interfaces. Now I would like to present you some of our dynamic criteria. I will start with this example. Do you remember? This is an email from IKEA. And it's very attractive, so I decided to click on the button. And what happened when I clicked the button? Up! They asked me to have information and to have personal information. My name, my phone name, my birth date, etc., 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 etc. Okay. I can earn 500 euro. A lot of money, it's very attractive. So I decided to give them my personal data and I click on the button. What happened? What happened? Very strange. Oh, it's not. It's next interfaces. This interfaces is to present me cosmetic product. So I'm sure I don't use it. You could be sure that I don't use this kind of product. There is a mistake here. This is not simple to catch, to earn money with IKEA, but it's very important to have personal information on me. So this is another questionnaire on personal data. Okay, I give it. And another screen appears, and another screen appears, etc., etc. And I'm obliged to buy this product. And this product don't interest me, because I am a man, of course. So there is a lot of things that's wrong in these interfaces. The first one is solicitation. The solicitation is not good, because there is something wrong. You deal with a male over female. Something doesn't go. Here, the personal data, initiation, there is one personal data, one other personal data, one other, it's too much. Initiation is not good. The commitment is bad. The engaging process is bad. So I decided to stop interact with these interfaces. So now I would like to explain you the four dynamic criteria. Solicitation. What is solicitation? That means boosting the relationship by first temptation. I will give you some example. For example, when broadly decimated, the first personalized message increases the probability of initiating the first action from the user. You start to ask to this personal data, and after you find a girl or you find a man and you be married a couple of days later. When you show internet links just around user email to initiate the first action, you receive an email, you receive a link, and you click on the link and you start. This is solicitation. When you arrived on a website, this website or Accord Hotel, and you realize that you can earn money, or you can have better services. It's very interactive, but it's solicitation. The second criteria is initiation or priming. That means helping the user to do as the system wants him to do. How to do that? For example, two examples to understand. Complete information sheet before receiving a subscription. You ask to be member of something, and after you give more and more information on that. This is a famous League of Legends. I am sure some of you know that video games. Register a free online game site as a first step before paying to play more. You start it's free, and after you have to pay and to play more and more and more and more. This is initiation. It's free, and after you pay. Commitment. What is commitment? Commitment means involve, engage, and adhere to the objective of the systems. The systems needs you. We need information of you to satisfy you, of course, and to influence your mind. For example, Facebook give a lot of message to influence and to engage people, to engage the user. For example, when you receive repeat message, repeat frequently to the user to get in touch with people in order to strengthen the information on social network. Hey, your friend didn't receive an email. Could you send him? This is a commitment process. Ascendency. Ascendency, that means check the user, submit the user to have his or her total involvement. I will give you some example. For example, the frequent repetition of a game at a game for which the user has been faithful. This is a video game for children. And for example, an example in behavior, when you want to stop smoking, the completion of this application scenario for an electronic health promotion. This is ascendency. Okay. So, oops, sorry. We have found 8 persuasive criteria and 23 sub-criteria that we develop in our lab. This list distinguishes the static aspect of the interfaces and dynamic aspect of interfaces. And the question is, for us, how to integrate these criteria when you design interfaces or when you evaluate interfaces. I will give you an example of that. And I have 5 minutes? 10, good, thank you. How to use these persuasive criteria? The question is, could the criteria agreed for persuasive interfaces be used in software project, and which will be the impact of these criteria? The experience is a real experience in a real enterprise, in a real company, in a software company. And in this company, they use, as you know, web survey is assessment tool, is tool to assess the user, tools to assess market, business, tool to assess expectation of the user. And the web survey are very interesting because it's not expensive. There is some of them are free. Maybe you know a Lime survey. Lime survey is a free share, so it's very cheap, of course. And you can collect large data of the user, so it's very interesting to use a web survey when you need to have information of the user. But the problem is that you received a lot of message demanding you to ask to web survey, to answer questionnaire. So the response rate in France, maybe in Poland it's better, but the response rate in France is 30%. It's very bad. So when you receive an email asking you to answer to a questionnaire, you don't respond, you don't answer. And in this company, we decided to make an experience with real user, and the company each year asked to the user to give their opinions on the work. Yes, you understand? On the work. Do you enjoy to go in holidays with your company? Do you enjoy to have special prize if you go to the cinema or to theater. Do you enjoy? Do you like, etc., etc., etc. So the first year they send an email on this date, on the 5th March, to say that it's very important. You will receive in a couple of days a questionnaire. This is a questionnaire. 4 days later, and after there is a stimulus email. Don't forget to answer to the questionnaire. Yes? Okay. We do the same, but we change a lot of things. What we change? First, attractiveness. We improve attractiveness of this email. Emotional attraction. This is picture with guys from the company. Teasing, tunneling design. Suggestion, hey, what can we do for you? Solicitation, give your opinion. Credibility, we seen the email. Privacy, the data are private, and we certify that. Commitment, to improve the engaging process. Call to action, please answer to our question. And after, we compare the data, the first year to from the second years. The response, and it's very interesting because the response rate increased from 25% to 41%. So I will give you this example to prove that criteria can be used to change some of our behavior, and this behavior is to ask to answer to a questionnaire. I'm not sure to have enough time to finish. I will give you some example because I try to work on a website of a bank in Poland, and to use what we, and to show you what we can do with this criteria. For example, if you decided to inspect the website with credibility, privacy, personalization, attractiveness, solicitation, initiation of priming, commitment, and ascendency, what you can produce for improve your interfaces. This is a problem of attractiveness here. It's a problem of solicitation, privacy, solicitation, as all, personalization. So this is a specific lecture a specific analysis of persuasion in interfaces. I can have another example, but it's not good. Yes, this one is very interesting for me because it's my first time in Poland. I never been before. So I want before I went in Poland, I want to see exactly what coins you use. What's your money? I never saw before. So I decided to go to the National Bank of Poland, and I want to see coins of Poland. It's impossible. It's just impossible. So there is a lot of problems. Attractiveness, there's no. This is an image, you see what is right. Image of collector coins. There is no image. Solicitation, if I want to buy some coins, it's impossible. Initiation, you can make some user interface with initiation, with priming, with commitment. No, there's nothing. So I believe there is a lot of things to do with persuasive technology or persuasive criteria in your interfaces. Well, this is a last example, a bad example. So I would like to conclude in 2 minutes. This is a picture I like from Rafał Olbinski. I don't know if Rafał Olbinski has come from Poland, maybe, could be. This is a picture of him, and the canvas name is Friendly Persuasion. And this is persuasion in your face. This is friendly. You have to look in this part of the screen. Yes, there is someone who push to your eyes and, hey, look there, look here, do that. This is friendly persuasion. So, do you remember the model I developed at first? This one, accessibility, usability, emotion, persuasion. So, accessibility is not enough. Availability is important. Ability to access is important. Adaptability of our products is very important, but it's not enough. Usability is not enough. 2, efficacy, efficiency, effectiveness, usefulness, satisfaction, reliability, etc., are very important, but it's not enough. Emotion is very important. Very important. Pleasure, cognitive appraisal, action tendency, feeling of the user, expression of the user, of the face of the user is very important, but it's not enough. I believe that now persuasion is a new field for design interfaces. So, I will finish now with some highlight of my lecture. So, we have produced a criteria-based approach to design and evaluate persuasive interfaces. We produce 8 criteria: credibility, privacy, personalization, attractiveness, solicitation, initiation, commitment, and ascendency. The aim, the objective of this criteria is to have a better performance of our interfaces, our website, and it's to increase the score of use. I hope this criteria I hope you use it to evaluate, to design, to correct your HCI project. And the problem with persuasive technology is ethical point of view. When you decide to modify what user has in mind, you decide to influence the user. You decide to change what you want to do. You decide to sell him something, maybe a car, maybe a hotel, a room in a hotel, etc., a voyage, a travel, sorry. So this ethical issue. And ethical issues are very important because ethical issue is that. So when you decide to use persuasive criteria, maybe, that means you decide to influence the user and to change his or her behavior. But when you decide to change or to influence the user, it's very difficult to do without the ethics of the user. The user can't do what you want if his or her ethics is damaged. That is very important. If you try to modify the ethics of the user, his value systems, oftenly the users stop the interaction. And the other thing, it's when the user is aware of the influence, he decides to stop the interaction too. Oof. Fortunately, it's good news. Persuasive technology cannot change at all, cannot change all of our mind. So fortunately, the user is still, I hope it could be longer, still a little bit, or a long time, free to choose what he do with computer when he interact with a website, for example. So, thank you. I just want to thank special thanks for my students and for a colleague, Alexandra, PhD, one of my students, Severin Schmidt, Steve Kopp, and Shab Natstar, they work in SAP and Business Object, and they paid for this study, this research. They pay Alexandra and Emery during 3 years to design this criteria. So, thank you very much for your attention. Maybe you have some question. I'm not really in time, but I start later.
Okay, we have 5 minutes to questions if anybody wants to ask. Nobody?
No.
I don't want to dominate it, but I will have a quick question.
Yeah, thank you. I want a question if it's simple. An easy to answer question, please.
Can I see the previous slide?
The previous slide, yeah.
Not with the thank you, with the nice chart with this. What does it mean? A little bit.
A little bit, yeah. It's a question.
I'm serious.
Yeah.
Research where, because maybe it was not, where somebody was trying to think and try to kind of experiment how far I can go. Because what you said was extremely interesting to me about this awareness of influence, that if people know they are influenced, they might go off.
Mm-hmm.
So was there any research maybe in your lab as to how to create these interfaces so that this awareness of influence is not there? So you kind of want to covertly influence without being seen that you are influencing.
Your question is very important for me because it's a very hard question. It's not simple to answer.
Just ignore it.
No. I have some result. Maybe I don't show you this result. In some experiment we compare e-commerce and Facebook, and to show what kind of influence is in e-commerce website and Facebook. And there is something very interesting because in e-commerce our user we test in our labs, and you saw your own labs, they have in mind that the e-commerce try to influence me. So when e-commerce website try to influence me, I am aware. I'm very aware of the influence, so I be careful. When is it Facebook? It's totally different. This is my friend. This is my colleague. This is my people that I talk with them every days, and it's very interesting to see that user don't see the influence of Facebook. It's very strange, but the influence of Facebook, it's very heavy, very important, and people don't see it. So this question is very hard to answer because that depends on the type of the kind of website, on the kind of user, and.
The reason I asked this question is that I tried to. I'm also doing hypnosis, and in hypnosis you can't really influence behind the ethics.
Yes, that's right.
And I was asked to.
I agree with that.
And I was asked to help with the interface, which will be hypnotic. And hypnosis is about influencing without awareness that you're influencing. This is why I asked this question.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Is there any other questions? Because we have to start the panel. So.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.